50% of Canadians live in this small area where Toronto and Montreal, the two most populated cities in Canada, are located. As you can see, this area goes deep into the heart of the United States to the point that it can be said that most Canadians live farther south than Americans who live in the states of Washington, Montana, North Dakota, Alaska, and part of Minnesota and Maine Canada border. So the questions are, why did so many Canadians settle here having such a large and resource-rich territory to the north? Why didn't large cities develop far from the US border? And how does the Canadian government intend to change that situation? The most apparent reason why so many Canadians live near the US border is historical. Canada is a very large country. In fact, it is the second largest country after Russia. Therefore, its 38 million inhabitants in such a large territory make it one of the countries with the lowest population density. Canada border. To get an idea, China has a slightly smaller territory than Canada, but the Asian country is home to 1.4 billion people. The United States has a territory more or less the same size as Canada's, but 330 million people live there, almost 9 times more than its northern neighbor. The first European settlements in Canada were on the east coast where they fished, but in the interior of the country. It was the fur trade that dominated the economy for many years later. New York was the port that connected America with Europe and was the city where information ideas, the latest inventions, and above all, millions of immigrants from Europe arrived first. But with the invention of the automobile, it was no longer only the port cities that were attractive, as the automobile allowed the population to disperse to outlying areas, giving rise to the growth of other intermediate cities in the interior Canada border. However, in Canada, 80% of its inhabitants still live less than 100 miles from the border with the United States, which is near the port cities. So the other question is, why did large cities develop far from the US border? The region is relatively small in area, but very important for its high agricultural activity. Canada has less than 1% of the world's population, but has 15% of the world's freshwater supply. It is estimated that Canada has more than 2 million lakes. And this region called the Great Lakes, which forms part of the border with the United States, is considered the largest freshwater area in the world. This makes the climate in this region very good for agriculture, so 26 million Canadians live below that line because early European settlements used the St. Lawrence River for trade. And thanks to the agricultural potential in the lands near the Great Lakes, a dense network of towns and cities were created by the time Canada industrialized. Therefore, it has an ambitious program that receives more than 300,000 new immigrants every year. And most of these immigrants, as expected, choose to live in the south of Canada, either in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, among others. Canada border. Therefore, in the last few years, Canadian leaders have wanted to populate the north of Canada, which remains one of the least populated and exploited areas in the world. In 2016, a team, the government, published a report that had the vision to reach a figure of 100 million inhabitants by the year 2100, or 62 million in addition to the 38 currently living in the country. Contrary to what is happening in the south, only a little more than 100,000 people live in the north. So one of the objectives of attracting millions of new immigrants in the coming decades is to populate the north of Canada and thus take advantage of the economic and geopolitical potential of that area. Thanks for watching this video and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos like this. See you soon in the next video.